Volume 1, Chapter 6 of The Last Man. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Månsbro. The Last Man by Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. Volume 1, Chapter 6. And now let the reader, passing over some short period of time, be introduced to our happy circle. Adrian, Idris, and I were established in Windsor Castle. Lord Raymond and my sister inhabited a house which the foreman had built on the borders of the great park near Perdita's cottage, as was still named the low-roofed abode, where we two, poor even in hope, had each received the assurance of our felicity. We had our separate occupations and our common amusements. Sometimes we passed whole days under the leafy covert of the forest with our books and music. This occurred during those rare days in this country when the sun mounts his ethereal throne in unclouded majesty, and the windless atmosphere is a bath of pellucid and grateful water, wrapping the senses in tranquillity. When the clouds veiled the sky, and the wind scattered them there and here, rending their woof and strewing its fragments through the aerial plains, then we rode out and sought new spots of beauty and repose. When the frequent rains shut us within doors, evening recreation followed the morning study, ushered in by music and song. Idris had a natural musical talent, and her voice, which had been carefully cultivated, was full and sweet. Raymond and I made a part of the concert, and Adrian and Perdita were devout listeners. Then we were as gay as summer insects, playful as children. We ever met one another with smiles, and read content and joy in each other's countenances. Our prime festivals were held in Perdita's cottage, nor were we ever weary of talking of the past or dreaming of the future. Jealousy and disquiet were unknown among us, nor did a fear or hope of change ever disturb our tranquillity. Others said we might be happy. We said we are. When any separation took place between us, it generally so happened that Idris and Perdita would ramble away together, and we remained to discuss the affairs of nations and the philosophy of life. The very difference of our dispositions gave zest to these conversations. Adrian had the superiority in learning and eloquence, but Raymond possessed the quick penetration and the practical knowledge of life, which usually displayed itself in opposition to Adrian, and thus kept up the ball of discussion. At other times we made excursions of many days' duration, and crossed the country to visit any spot noted for beauty or historical association. Sometimes we went up to London, and entered into the amusements of the busy throng. Sometimes our retreat was invaded by visitors from among them. This change made us only the more sensible to the delights of the intimate intercourse of our own circle, the tranquillity of our divine forest, and our happy evenings in the halls of our beloved castle. The disposition of Idris was peculiarly frank, soft, and affectionate. Her temper was unalterably sweet, and although firm and resolute on any point that touched her heart, she was yielding to those she loved. The nature of Perdita was less perfect, but tenderness and happiness improved her temper, and softened her natural reserve. Her understanding was clear and comprehensive, her imagination vivid, she was sincere, generous, and reasonable. Adrian, the matchless brother of my soul, the sensitive and excellent Adrian, loving all and beloved by all, yet seemed destined not to find the half of himself, which was to complete his happiness. He often left us and wandered by himself in the woods, or sailed in his little skiff, his books his only companions. He was often the gayest of our party, at the same time that he was the only one visited by fits of despondency. His slender frame seemed overcharged with the weight of life, and his soul appeared rather to inhabit his body than unite with it. I was hardly more devoted to my Idris than to her brother, and she loved him as her teacher, her friend, the benefactor who had secured to her the fulfilment of her dearest wishes. Raymond, the ambitious, restless Raymond, reposed midway on the great high road of life, and was content to give up all his schemes of sovereignty and fame, to make one of us the flower of the field. His kingdom was the heart of Perdita, his subjects her thoughts, by her he was loved, respected as a superior being, obeyed, waited on. No office, no devotion, no watching was irksome to her, as it regarded him. She would sit apart from us and watch him, she would weep for joy to think that he was hers. She erected a temple for him in the depth of her being, and each faculty was a priestess vowed to his service. Sometimes she might be wayward and capricious, but her repentance was bitter, her return entire, and even this inequality of temper suited him who was not formed by nature to float idly down the stream of life. During the first year of their marriage, Perdita presented Raymond with a lovely girl. It was curious to trace in this miniature model the very traits of its father. The same half disdainful lips and smile of triumph, the same intelligent eyes, the same brow and chestnut hair, her very hands and taper fingers resembled his. How very dear she was to Perdita! In progress of time, I also became a father, and our little darlings, our playthings and delights, called forth 1,000 new and delicious feelings. Years passed thus, even years. Each month brought forth its successor, each year one like to the gone by. Truly our lives were a living comment on that beautiful sentiment of Plutarch, that our souls have a natural inclination to love, being born as much to love as to feel, to reason, to understand, and remember. We talked of change and active pursuits, but still remained at Windsor, incapable of violating the charm that attracted us to our secluded life. Pareamo aver qui tutto il ben raccolto, che fra mortali in più parte si rimembra. Now also that our children gave us occupation, we found excuses for our idleness, in the idea of bringing them up to a more splendid career. At length our tranquillity was disturbed, and the course of events, which for 5 years had flowed on in hushing tranquillity, was broken by breakers and obstacles that woke us up from our pleasant dream. A new Lord Protector of England was to be chosen, and at Raymond's request we removed to London to witness and even take part in the election. If Raymond had been united to Idris, this post had been his stepping stone to higher divinity, and his desire for power and fame had been crowned with fullest measure. He had exchanged a sceptre for a lute, a kingdom for Perdita. Did he think of this as we journeyed up to town? I watched him, but could make but little of him. He was particularly gay, playing with his child, and turning to sport every word that was uttered. Perhaps he did this because he saw a cloud upon Perdita's brow. She tried to rouse herself, but her eyes were now and then filled with tears, and she looked wistfully on Raymond and the girl, as if fearful that some evil would betide them, and so she felt. A presentiment of ill hung over her. She leaned from the window looking on the forest, and the turrets of the castle, and as these became hid by intervening objects, she passionately exclaimed, "Scenes of happiness! Scenes sacred to devoted love! When shall I see you again? And when I see ye, shall I be still the beloved and joyous Perdita, or shall I, heart-broken and lost, wander among your groves, the ghost of what I am?" "Why, silly one," cried Raymond, "what is your little head pondering upon, that of a sudden you have become so sublimely dismal? Cheer up, or I shall make you over to Idris, and call Adrian into the carriage, who, I see by his gesture, sympathizes with my good spirits." Adrian was on horseback. He rode up to the carriage, and his gaiety, in addition to that of Raymond, dispelled my sister's melancholy. We entered London in the evening, and went to our several abodes near Hyde Park. The following morning Lord Raymond visited me early. "I come to you," he said, "only half assured that you will assist me in my project, but resolved to go through with it, whether you concur with me or not. Promise me secrecy, however, for if you will not contribute to my success, at least you must not baffle me." "Well, I promise, and now,